There was a time when anyone would tremble upon hearing the name Osama bin Laden. Not only was he the mastermind behind the September 11th attacks, he's one of the most worshipped people in the history of Islam. His empire, Al-Qaeda, became the most dominant monopoly in the world by taking control of multiple industries, executing masses of people with vivid memories etched in the people's minds. Because of his ruthless practices and secretive deals, Osama bin Laden made many enemies. His leadership filled with bitter rivalries and even ferocious battles against US presidents like ex-President Barack Obama. His story is one of only a handful of cases where someone manages to rise among 50 brothers and sisters to the absolute peak of power and terrorism. The family disowned Osama bin Laden in 1994 when Saudi Arabia stripped him of his citizenship because of his extremist activities. So let me take you back to 1957, where a young Osama bin Laden is born into wealth. On March 10, 1957, Osama bin Laden was born in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Osama was the son of Mohammed bin Awad bin Laden, a successful construction contractor who founded the Saudi bin Laden Group. Despite the family's wealth and prominence, Osama's parents separated, and he grew up in a privileged environment. Osama's upbringing included education at the Al-Thajr Model School and later, Oxford University in Britain, where he studied English language. However, his interests began to diverge from business, focusing more on religion, poetry, and literature. Influenced by his father's conservative religious fervor, Osama developed a pan-Islamist ideology, advocating the unification of Muslims against Western influence in the Middle East. The narrative shifts to the Soviet-Afghan War in the 1980s, a pivotal period for Osama. He traveled to Pakistan and, under the guidance of Abdullah Azzam, joined the Mujahideen, playing a significant role in supporting their resistance against the Soviet invaders. Osama's involvement in Maktab al-Khidmat, an organization aiming to fund the Mujahideen, laid the groundwork for the later establishment of Al-Qaeda in 1988. Al-Qaeda's inception marked a shift toward more extremist goals, including waging jihad against non-Muslims globally. The group believed in using terrorist tactics to achieve its objectives. Following the Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan, bin Laden returned to Saudi Arabia in 1989 but faced a deteriorating relationship with the Saudi government due to conflicting visions. As bin Laden sought a confrontational approach against non-Muslims, the Saudi government maintained its alliance with the United States. This sets the stage for bin Laden's journey towards orchestrating the devastating 9/11 attacks. Bin Laden's conflict with the Saudi regime escalated over the South Yemen civil war, where he wanted Saudi intervention against the Soviet-backed Yemeni Socialist Party, but the Saudi government opposed it. Another issue emerged in 1990 when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, leading to Operation Desert Storm. Bin Laden opposed the presence of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia, leading to a rupture with the Saudi government in 1991. Expelled from Saudi Arabia, bin Laden moved to Sudan in 1992, forming strong connections due to Sudan's implementation of Sharia law. The U.S. closely monitored bin Laden's activities, and by 1996, sanctions forced him to leave Sudan. He returned to Afghanistan, becoming a guest of the Taliban leader Mullah Omar. Bin Laden declared war against the U.S. in 1996, citing its military presence in Saudi Arabia. From 1996, Al-Qaeda, led by bin Laden, committed terrorist actions against the U.S. Various attacks, including the 1998 embassy bombings in Tanzania and Kenya, marked an escalation. Bin Laden's primary grievances included U.S. support for Israel and its military presence in Islamic lands. The planning for the 9/11 attacks began in late 1998 or early 1999, and by 2000, 19 individuals were selected and established in terrorist cells in the U.S. The attacks targeted the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, occurring on September 11, 2001. The devastating attacks resulted in thousands of casualties and unprecedented psychological impact. Initially, bin Laden denied involvement, but evidence, including videos and statements, pointed to his orchestration. Seeking symbolic revenge, he cited the destruction of towers in Beirut in 1982. The U.S. swiftly responded by passing a joint resolution, authorizing force against those responsible for 9/11. The war in Afghanistan began in October 2001, with a swift initial victory for the U.S. and its allies. By early November, Kabul was encircled and a strike killed a top al-Qaeda figure. The war in Afghanistan played a crucial role in the global response to terrorism and efforts to dismantle al-Qaeda's network. In the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, the U.S. led an invasion of Afghanistan in October 2001, aiming to dismantle the Taliban regime and eliminate al-Qaeda. The Northern Alliance, supported by U.S. troops, gradually took control of key cities, with Kandahar being the last major stronghold where the Taliban made their final stand in late November. The remaining forces surrendered in early December, marking the establishment of a new interim administration in Afghanistan, led by Hamid Karzai. However, the victory in Afghanistan proved to be a false dawn, as insurgent revolts began to plague the country and al-Qaeda continued to pose a threat. Despite coming close in the Battle of Tora Bora in December 2001, the U.S. failed to capture Osama bin Laden. He escaped to Pakistan, where he, along with other senior al-Qaeda members, lived largely unharassed, with tacit support from elements within Pakistan's politics and security services. Bin Laden's whereabouts remained elusive, with reports placing him in Waziristan, near the Afghan border. The U.S. increased the bounty on his head to $50 million in 2007. During this time, bin Laden and al-Qaeda orchestrated terrorist activities worldwide. The focus of Western military presence shifted to Iraq, with the U.S. invasion in 2003, driven by claims that Saddam Hussein's regime was linked to bin Laden and seeking weapons of mass destruction. The invasion of Iraq faced international skepticism, with accusations of using the 9/11 attacks as a pretext for regime change. The swift victory over Saddam Hussein's regime was followed by a prolonged counterinsurgency campaign, marked by al-Qaeda's involvement in attempting to sow divisions between Sunni and Shiite Muslims. The situation gradually stabilized with a troop surge in 2007 and political reforms. Meanwhile, bin Laden moved to a purpose-built compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, in 2005, where he lived for years undetected. In 2009, U.S. intelligence identified his courier, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, leading to the discovery of bin Laden's compound. Despite extensive surveillance, photographic evidence confirming bin Laden's presence remained elusive until 2011. On May 1, 2011, President Barack Obama authorized Operation Neptune Spear. Navy SEALs conducted a raid in Abbottabad, killing bin Laden. His body was quickly disposed of at sea to prevent his burial site from becoming a jihadist shrine. Despite bin Laden's death, the threat from Islamic fundamentalism persisted, with al-Qaeda being overshadowed by more extreme groups like the Islamic State (IS). IS emerged in Iraq in 2014, declaring an Islamic caliphate and engaging in brutal tactics, causing a split with al-Qaeda. The organization gained global attention for its extreme violence. Over time, control over Iraq and Syria was wrested from IS, but the threat of Islamic fundamentalism persisted, shifting to the Sahel region and seeing the Taliban's return to power in Afghanistan in 2021. Osama bin Laden's significance lies in his role as a key figure in the history of modern Islamic fundamentalism. Gradually radicalized, he played a crucial role in the Mujahideen's fight against the Soviet Union in the 1980s. His anti-Americanism and opposition to Muslim regimes led to the emergence of a more extreme version of al-Qaeda, culminating in the infamous 9/11 attacks on the United States. The September 11, 2001 attacks orchestrated by Osama bin Laden resulted in the deaths of over 2,700 people, causing profound psychological impact and altering lives globally. The vivid memories of that day are etched in people's minds as footage of the Twin Towers collapse circulated. The aftermath saw increased security measures worldwide, wars in the Middle East, and constant headlines about incidents in Afghanistan and Iraq. These events ultimately led to the rise of ISIL and a Mediterranean migrant crisis, with millions fleeing conflict in Syria and Iraq. Meanwhile, bin Laden met an ignominious end in a fortified compound in Abbottabad, having been killed by Navy SEALs in 2011 after years in hiding. Would it have been better for bin Laden to have been captured alive and placed on trial for his crimes? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.